Bar owners and hoteliers are now holding protests against the Supreme Court ban on selling liquor on highways of 500 meters from them. The industry is very worried about huge job and revenue losses. And now Tourism Minister Mahesh Sharma has stepped in, saying that the government will try to find a middle path. Protests by hoteliers, bar owners in Chandigarh against the ban on selling liquor on highways of 500 meters from them. All over the country, the Supreme Court's directive has the hotel and alcohol industry very worried. Areas usually bustling with lunch and dinner crowds completely empty today. So, is there a way out? This is what the Trident Hotel in Gurgaon has done.
Less than 100 meters from the National Highway, NH8 used to be this gate of the Trident Hotel on our left, but not anymore. The gate had to be shifted to one which is inside the lane, almost a kilometer away from here. All this to try and beat the ban which says no liquor can be served within 500 meters of all national and state highways.
ये कुछ गवर्नमेंट का कानून निकला है, उसके तहत जो है मतलब ये बंद करा दिया गया है।
आगे के दोनों गेट बंद हैं।
जी हाँ।
और पहले इस गेट से क्या जाता था?
पहले भी इस गेट से जो है स्टाफ वगैरह जाता था।
स्टाफ का गेट था, उसे अब मेन गेट कर दिया है।
जी।
580 meters from the highway, and that's the qualifier for the Trident Hotel, which has now turned its staff entry and exit point as its main in and out points.
Maharashtra is working on another unique solution. According to sources, there's a government proposal to denotify the highways affected by the ruling. Over 16,000 shops will be affected by the order in Maharashtra, and the expected losses could be as high as 7,000 crores.
There are around, say, 150,000 employees who are jobless. So that is a major concern for us now. And our business is here, definitely. We are going to into losses of hundreds and thousands of crores of business all over Bombay.
The Minister of Tourism says they are trying for a solution.
पर्यटन उद्योग को भी नुकसान ना पहुंचे, इसके लिए हम सब लोग बैठेंगे दोबारा और कानूनी लोगों के साथ सहायता लेकर हम किस तरह से एक बीच का रास्ता निकाल सकते हैं, जिससे पर्यटन उद्योग भी हमारे लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है.
From Delhi to Mumbai, Bangalore to Hyderabad, the hotel and restaurant industry is working overtime to get the ban reversed, since it means crores in losses for them. But for those who have lost their family or friends to drunken driving, this is perhaps a welcome move. With Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor in Gurugram, in Mumbai, Ankita Sinha for NDTV. Well, joining us tonight is Senior Supreme Court Advocate Aryama Sundaram. Also with us tonight is Riaz Amlani, the President of the National Restaurant Association, Ankur Bhatia, the Executive Director of the Bird Group, who has set up a chain of luxury hotels in Delhi and Jaipur and is going into the hospitality industry. Harman Sidhu, who's the petitioner in this case, on whose petition the Supreme Court has actually passed this order, will also be joined in a little while by Mr. Prashant Bhushan. But Mr. Sundaram, let me ask you first, you've written a very strong piece today on this court order, and you seem to clearly believe that this is a case of judicial overreach.
Well, what you're referring to, the article I'd written, was more on the use of Article 142 and what Article 142 is meant to, in my view, provide for. And very often we find that Article 142, again in my view, is used where legislation should really step in and not where the court should act. So far as this particular order is concerned, I find this is an example of Article 142 being used in an area which should certainly be within the purview of the legislature. Can you explain to our viewers what that means? The court would step in if there's a Can
you explain
yes.
what Article 142 is?
What I'm trying to say is that, look, the issue of a liquor policy in the country, Article 142 basically gives the Supreme Court the power to do complete justice in a case, in any cause before it. It is a power which is to really do justice, but that power traces itself from, let's say, an enactment, an act of parliament, or from the constitution, which mandates something should be done, and there's a void. Nobody is doing it, therefore the court steps in and directs that it's done, sees that it's done. Now here is a case where there is a liquor policy very clearly in place. There are hotels which are legally permitted to operate. These are hotels which cater not just by serving liquor. They have guests staying there, they have banquet halls, they cater to receptions, they have restaurants. Now, if you look at the main purpose of the litigation and what the court was addressing itself to, and the reasoning of the entire judgment, the reasoning of the judgment is there are a lot of unfortunate drunken driving deaths, and that is a fact. And we should take steps to stop that. One of the ways the court felt to stop it was to remove the attraction of having liquor vending shops, which are right there on the highway when anyone driving past can just stop on a highway and get himself a drink and continue driving. Now, this was the aim, and this is what the entire judgment proceeds on. But the very end of the judgment then goes in to stop the issuing of licenses to any liquor licenses to anyone within 500 meters. Now, a person who's going to a 5-star hotel in order to have a meal is not going there on his way while he's driving down a highway to quickly go and have a drink and continue driving down a highway. Before such a judgment was passed, it is my opinion that what should have been looked into is what will be the effect of this judgment, because if the effect of the judgment is what it has turned out to be, I personally find no reasoning in the judgment or no discussion which leads to this conclusion. The entire discussion has been about really liquor shops on highways themselves.
Right.
You're driving from Delhi to Jaipur, and on the main highway between Delhi and Jaipur, if there are liquor shops and people drink there, of course it's a cause to be concerned about, and of course what the Supreme Court is saying is absolutely correct, and the government ought to do something about it. But I think what has been lost in this matter is that the effect of the order and how far a blank statement saying all highways, quite forgetting that there are state highways, and this is where there is a great problem which is going to arise. People feel it can be very easily sorted out by denotifying the highways and denotifying the state highways. It's not that simple.
I'm going to come to that
very
issue.
Often,
I'm going to come to that issue in just a moment. I just wanted to take your initial comments to the petitioner, Harman Sidhu. And Mr. Sidhu, I was reading that you yourself enjoy an occasional drink, and even you didn't expect that the court would give such a wide-ranging order. Do you believe that they should have stuck just to the main highways and to those liquor shops along the main highways, or that it's okay if it's been extended to, you know, 5-star hotels and clubs and so on?
I am not aware of what story you are talking about, where you are citing me.
In the Hindustan Times
the
today.
basic thing is that the central government had been sending advisories to the states since 2004 that there should be no sale of liquor along the highways, and these advisories had been sent time and again since 2004, and none of the states had taken any step to remove these, and that is why we were forced to move the Honorable Court.
Do you believe that this will genuinely
seeking an implementation of this advisory?
But do you believe that this will genuinely bring down drunken driving deaths? Because what stops somebody from having a drink or lots of drinks outside that 500-meter zone and then driving?
See, we can find 100 reasons to defeat anything. For example, as you are saying that people would drink from some other place and come onto the road, if we all go through the order in detail, the court order also says this, that this is one of the steps. People would still, they might still come out. But there is a great temptation when you see a liquor shop along the highway. One is tempted to stop and have a drink. Look at the statistics, like given by the National Highway Authority of India, 291 kilometers, 185 liquor shops. That means a liquor shop every 1.5 kilometers. So if you are driving at 90 kilometers per hour, which is the national speed limit, every 1 minute you come across a liquor shop. So is this something that we are trying to promote?
I'm just looking at the statistics of the Ministry of Road.
I fail to understand.
I'm just looking at the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and their statistics for 2015.
And they've talked about how basically drunken driving accounts for about 3.3% of total accidents and just over 4% of deaths that are reported on the roads. And there's a large number of road accidents that take place. 97% of them take place because of overspeeding, bad condition of roads, drivers who are, who are stressed or haven't slept well, and other factors. So the drunken driving deaths actually constitute, according to the government's own figures, a very small percentage of incidents.
Again, I would refer to the court's order in which it has been mentioned that it is a well-known point that there is underreporting in such cases where drink driving is involved. And secondly, as we are talking about the speeding part, which holds a major chunk of it, everybody knows that once one is high on drinks, he tends to speed up. He tends to take the thrill out of speeding. So these things actually combine together. If you look at all these high-profile road crashes that have taken place over the years, in each of those incidents, which were time and again highlighted by the media, liquor played a major role, in which like 4 people or 5 people were mowed down by any vehicle.
Okay, so let me take what you're saying to Ankur Bhatia.
And I'm actually sad. One second, please. One second, please. When you are talking about the statistics, you are just saying like only 3.4% were affected due to drink driving. So do you think that is the price of a few thousand lives that a country should pay just to ensure that the liquor is sold along the highways? That's not the right justification.
All right, so Ankur Bhatia, this is something according to Mr. Sidhu that shouldn't be taken lightly, that even a few deaths caused by drunken driving are something that have to be taken seriously, and therefore this is a price that has to be paid. What is the cost that you're looking at in terms of the fallout of this?
See, from an hotelier, or first of all, you must keep in mind that the way the urban infrastructure in our country has developed, in cities, in major metropolis, majority of the development has actually happened around national highways and state highways. Most of the 5-star hotels, most of the malls, the eateries, the restaurants are around national and state highways. That is the way, our countries have actually grown, our cities have actually grown on that. I completely agree with the fact that the statistics that Mr. Sidhu just mentioned about the number of liquor vends of actually selling liquor on that, if it is there. But if you have a 5-star hotel which is within the limits of a particular city, of a metropolis, those have got affected as well, and we are looking at least 1 million jobs getting affected with this particular judgment. We are looking at thousands and thousands of crores of revenue, which is there, both in terms of central taxation, the central excise, the income for hoteliers on which they actually pay taxes as well. So the major economic impact on this. I mean, imagine in a situation like Delhi, where majority of the marriages actually happen on and most of the other cities as well, around highways as well. So with this particular ruling, in fact, you are not able to serve alcohol at a reception or at a marriage party, because majority of the marriage halls and the infrastructure which is being developed is around motorways.
No, so let me take what you're saying to Prashant Bhushan. Mr. Bhushan has been very strongly supporting what the court has done here. Mr. Bhushan, what do hotels do? I mean, what do 5-star hotels and their bars do? They're, I mean, technically not on the highway. They may be, they may just technically fall on the highway because of the way our cities are designed. But I don't think that's quite what the courts were targeting. But what do they do? What does the hospitality industry do?
Well, you see, the hospitality industry may be in difficulty. The same thing used to be said about the tobacco industry, still said about the tobacco industry, as to what do they do if curbs are put on tobacco use, cigarette consumption, pack warnings, no smoking in public places, etc., etc. See, we must recognize that tobacco today is a huge menace to society. It's one of the leading causes of road accidents. It's the leading cause of domestic violence against women. It's one of the leading causes of sexual crimes in the country. And therefore, it's not just a matter of the right of a person who consumes that alcohol, it directly affects various other people as well. For example, the people who are hit by drunken driving, the people who are victims, the women who are victims of domestic violence, the people who are victims of sexual crimes, etc. And therefore, curbs have to be devised and put on the use and consumption of alcohol.
Are you in favor
it's certainly
of
one of the biggest menaces in our society today, and you can't justify that by saying that, look, there is a big industry around alcohol. There is a big or there was a big industry, still is a big industry around tobacco, but that does not mean that.
Are you in favor of prohibition? Do you believe that?
Well, I am not in favor of prohibition because prohibition rarely succeeds. Prohibition usually leads to other kinds of problems and crimes, etc. But innovative ways have to be devised to curb the use of alcohol. The order of the Supreme Court regarding ban on liquor shops and bars, etc., serving alcohol along highways is one such curb which will go a long way in curbing the consumption of alcohol and all the various problems associated with the consumption of that alcohol.
If somebody wants to have a drink at a hotel, let's say in a 5-star hotel, in a bar, people have a have a right. They have a right to drink. And so why should that not be allowed? Isn't this a very sort of overarching court order?
See, they have a right to drink, but equally the people who become the victims of violence, domestic violence, or people who become the victims of drunken driving, etc., equally have a much greater right not to be hit by drunken drivers, etc.
Doesn't
and
go
therefore
out
one has
kill
to
people.
Eventually see.
Everybody who's drinking, I mean, the Supreme Court's logic was for drunken driving on highways. Now, I'm saying that everyone who goes to a 5-star hotel bar to drink isn't going to necessarily go out and then kill people or to go and beat up his wife, right? So I'm just asking whether this is an overarching order as a result. Mr. Sundaram,
same thing could be said.
Mr. Sundaram wants to come in on that before I come to
same thing could be said about smoking in public places.
You see what my friend Prashant Bhushan has just said is exactly what I started with. As he has so correctly pointed out, this really aims towards being some kind of restriction in some manner on the consumption of liquor. But the case before the court was stopping drunken driving because of liquor vends on the highways. Now, if the court in its wisdom could feel, like Mr. Prashant Bhushan feels, that consumption of liquor should be curbed at any cost, that is not a job for the court, not a job for the judiciary under our constitution. The issue of whether to have prohibition or restrict consumption of liquor or not is a legislative function. And the legislature can then come out with an enactment like they did in Kerala and said the bar should be closed. Then when the bar owners went to the court said, no, we are upholding the Kerala government's decision. That is much different than the court itself imposing different curbs on the consumption of liquor. That, according to me, is beyond the powers of the court and is venturing into the area of legislation. And what Mr. Prashant Bhushan said is exactly what I have been saying. If the aim of the judgment was to restrict the consumption of liquor, which Mr. Prashant Bhushan feels it is, then that is certainly beyond the judicial competence in this case. It is a legislative function and the court should not judicially legislate. And that is what I have been saying.
Mr. Bhushan, you disagreeing?
Tomorrow if the state wants to impose, that's a different matter.
Mr. Bhushan,
but it's not for the court to do so.
Mr. Bhushan, you disagree with that?
You see, firstly, this order is largely concentrated on the issue of drunken driving and therefore reducing or eliminating the access to liquor for drivers who are driving along highways. This is the first step. But the Supreme Court has a duty to enforce fundamental rights of all citizens, particularly innocent people who are hit by drunken drivers, etc., or innocent women who are subject to domestic violence because of drunken people, etc. So therefore, to say that this is only a matter for legislation or for government policy, etc., is not correct.
Because of that,
the Supreme Court equally has a duty to protect citizens' fundamental rights.
But also there seems to be an assumption here that anyone who has a drink is either, I mean, somehow morally depraved or is going to commit a crime. I'm just asking whether there is a moral argument that is creeping into this which is problematic. Riaz Amlani, you're president of the National Restaurant Association. If you though look at what Prashant Bhushan and Harman Sidhu are trying to say, they're trying to say that we have a serious problem of drunken driving in this country and perhaps extraordinary steps are needed in order to deal with that. Riaz.
Listen, first of all, let me just get down, answer Mr. Bhushan. We are not the alcohol industry, okay? You associated 1,000 vices and problems associated with the alcohol industry. We are not the alcohol industry. We are in the hospitality and the food services business. We run hotels and restaurants, and liquor forms a very small but a crucial part of our business. So you can't equate all the social evils that occur because of alcohol and cigarette smoking to the restaurants. Please try and understand we are a completely different industry. Okay? And coming to the point of Mr. Sidhu, where he says that the drunken driving is causing accidents and bars need to shut down to prevent drunken driving. There are 8,000 deaths that occur in Gujarat alone, which is a dry state. Does that happen because of drunken driving? Is that going away? Are you directly attributing the deaths that take place or because of drunken driving towards alcohol which is available on highways, or could that person have drunk from anywhere? If alcohol is banned on highways, do you think it's going to disappear? It's just going to become illegal and it's going to lead to crime. There are going to be spurious suppliers of alcohol going to be supplying to truck drivers along the highway. The problem is not going to go away. The focus, this reminds me of my time in college. When I was in college, there was a problem with eve teasing of girls, and the principal said that, listen, girls cannot wear skirts and they cannot wear sleeveless clothes anymore, then that will stop eve teasing. This is the same logic that's being extended. You have a place where you're consuming alcohol, that does not mean that you're going to go out and have a car accident. People are drinking responsibly, and when they're checking into hotels, they're going to stay in the hotel, they're not going to go anywhere else. And this should only be restricted to highways. Why is it applying to premises within the city limits? If today I have to go from one point in a city which I stay in to another point where I work, I'm going to use the highway too. So it does not make sense. It absolutely does not make sense.
Let me ask Mr. Bhushan.
You cannot, only 3.3%.
No, I want to ask Mr. Bhushan that is there a greater need for us to focus on strengthening awareness about drunken driving and the problem, through awareness campaigns, and also making, the law has already actually become tougher. The other day I was driving back from Gurgaon and they were, randomly stopping cars late at night and doing breathalyzer tests on drivers. And I could tell, a lot of people were nervous about, the cops coming and finding that they may have had too much to drink. I mean, is enforcement the key here, the enforcement of tough laws, which seems to have actually worked, for instance, in a city like Mumbai pretty well? Mr. Bhushan.
You see, the same thing could be done about cigarette smoking also. You could say that cigarette smoking, why should cigarette smoking in public places
But not all alcohol is bad for your health, Mr. Bhushan.
You should say
not all alcohol is bad for your health. Red wine is actually good for your health. A glass of red wine is actually good for your heart.
No, that's true.
So I don't think you can equate it with cigarettes necessarily.
No, what you are saying may be true, but unfortunately, in this country, alcohol is a source of enormous problems. In fact, the other day, a professor of mathematics had come to me some time back asking me to explore the possibility of filing a PIL. He was saying that, look, alcohol is the source of all these problems, domestic violence, sexual crimes, road accidents, etc.
If you want to ban alcohol, but if you give us rights
to restrict the use of alcohol,
if we invest crores in this business and you take away our rights after that, that's not fair.
And consumption of alcohol. To say that some people may not be drinking in excess, etc., to say that some people may not be indulging in violence after that is not a good enough reason not to think of ways of
Mr.
curbing
Sundaram,
it
you're
in
smiling
general, where it has become such a huge
but it
menace
sounds
to
like a
society.
very moralistic argument that you know, there's an assumption, Mr. Bhushan, that you seem to make.
I don't know what we're discussing, Nidhi.
Yeah.
Nidhi,
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm sorry, I really am confused what we're discussing, because the Supreme Court judgment is not for what Mr. Bhushan is saying. Mr. Bhushan is giving us a sermon on why liquor is bad and why liquor should be stopped. He may well be right, he's entitled to his view, and that is democracy. I am entitled to my view, that is democracy. But the point is, what Mr. Bhushan is saying is not what the Supreme Court judgment was based on. The Supreme Court judgment was not based on liquor is bad, there are sexual crimes, there are domestic crimes. That is not what the Supreme Court judgment was. The Supreme Court judgment was talking about incidents of road accidents and whether drunken driving stops it. The Supreme Court judgment was saying that on highways, you ought not to have liquor vends, with which I have a lot in support of. I think that's right. But we are talking there about highways. We are not talking about municipal areas. We are not talking about roads within. By the time you drive down Ring Road, you might be going from X place to Y place. And that is Ring Road. That's also considered a highway. Now the whole error, according to me, is somewhere along the way losing the issue. The issue was people who are driving, in the course of their driving, ought not to stop, go get drunk and continue driving on highways.
Well,
the issue was
Riyaz,
not that a person goes from their house on Ring Road to the Hyatt Hotel and has dinner and a drink and goes back home. That was not what was being addressed by the court, but the effect of the judgment is to cover that also. And that's why Mr. Bhushan is talking about prohibition being a holy thing to be achieved, which is his view, may not be many of ours.
Well, Riyaz, let me give you the last word very quickly. What are the options before your association now? We've heard Mahesh Sharma, the tourism minister, saying the government will try and find a middle path, but this is, after all, a Supreme Court ruling, so it's not going to be that easy.
So, you know, to really understand the real issue behind this, you have to go back into the history of this case. The Ministry of Road Service Transport gave its recommendation saying that no liquor should be sold along highways. Okay? There was never a mention of bars, restaurants and hotels.
Exactly.
It only dealt with liquor shops. And you have to understand the difference between a liquor shop and a restaurant. In a restaurant, we serve liquor, we don't sell it. In a liquor shop, you buy liquor, you're not served, you're not allowed to consume over there. And there's a big difference between restaurants, hotels and bars and liquor shops. The problem has always been about liquor shops and sale of liquor. There's enough Supreme Court law which tells you it defines what is sale of liquor and what is service of liquor. So bars and restaurants do not fall under the purview of this jurisdiction, of this order at all. In the order of December 15 and even in the clarification of March 31st, the Supreme Court has not even whispered. They have not even whispered the word bar or restaurant. There has been not a single mention of the word bar and restaurant.
But now that's history.
Not.
Yeah, but that's
please
history.
understand, the states are afraid to go out on a limb and take a strong stance because they are afraid of the Supreme Court. And the second part is it's a matter of service of liquor.
They have to follow
Nobody
the
wants to
Supreme
be
Court
seen as if
ruling.
they're protecting this.
They have to follow the Supreme Court ruling.
But Supreme Court has never said bars and restaurants. Supreme Court has never
I'm going
said
to try and
bars
revisit this issue in the
You
course
show
of the
me
week.
even one place
I'm
where
out
they
of
said
time,
bars and
Riyaz.
restaurants.
I'm out of time, but thank you to you all for joining us. This is a debate that seems to have now gotten mixed up with many other arguments, as we're seeing from the role of the judiciary to many moralistic arguments that have also been put forward. But thank you to you all for joining us tonight. I'll take